Hello, we are Vanessa Ladino, Maria Camila Robayo, Esteban Coronado, and Maria Alejandra Saavedra, and today we're going to present you our School of the Future, which will be based on 4 philosophers who dealt with the subject of education: Rousseau, Montessori, Plato, and Dewey. These authors were mixed to obtain our own method of learning that responds to the needs of society, which is in constant evolution. Now, the aims and vision of our school is to educate citizens with values and responsibility. Also, we believe in freedom of choice and letting children lead the path of their own future.
In accordance with our vision and philosophy, we have decided it is best to divide our learning system or our educational system into 2 stages. The first shall encompass ages from 4 to 8 years, and the second shall encompass kids with the age of 9 to 17 years. The philosophies we'll be handling at our educational system are in accordance to the stages that they manage. The first stage would use ideas grabbed from Montessori's and Rousseau's both methods. This means that we'll be using ideas of Montessori, such as kids managing creating experiences with new tools and didactic materials that we will give them. This means that they will be given the tools to develop certain skills, and we will create a certain environment of learning. This also means that they will be learning that the learning process will have in regard their independence and their own preferences. Regarding Rousseau's method, we have also learning based on experience. We have nature as well, constant contact with nature, which benefits the children and creates a relationship with nature, between the individual and nature. And we also have personal freedom as a very important value of education. We believe these 2 philosophies come into hand to create our view for the first stage with it, which is from ages 4 to 8. We believe this is the most appropriate for them. For the second stage, we have a more theoretical approach to Dewey and to Plato. This doesn't mean we abandon Rousseau's or Montessori's ideas. For example, we still have in high regard Rousseau's idea of contact with nature and of personal freedom. We still believe in the second stage that children should be independent and they should take their own decisions, guided accordingly, of course. And that is reflected on our use of both Plato's and Dewey's method. Of Dewey, we do like the idea of reflective thinking as an important aspect of education, because at our school we want to raise individual critical people who can reflect on the context that surrounds them, who are not silent on the status quo. That does not mean complete rejection, but it does mean that they can be critical, and which is very useful for progress and to advance. And that includes this also has effects on the use of science, for example, and other epistemological fields. So we have reflective thinking for Dewey, and for Plato we have a modern take on Plato's ideas of education, for specifically the Republic that he idealized. We believe in a form of specialization that is not as radical as Plato's, but a form of specialization that does seek to give the child decisions on what he wants to learn best, what he wants to specialize in. meaning that the child would be constantly taking decisions that specialize him or her in a specific field, and this helps determine strengths and weaknesses throughout a whole spectrum of aspects of students, and they will be discovering themselves through this process. So this all encompasses a view in which there is certain freedom given to the child. There is an importance to experiences, to creating a proper learning environment, such as Montessori thought and the freedom aspects as were thought by Rousseau. There is also reflective thinking, as John Dewey conceived. And we also have as well a less radical stance on specialization that stems from Plato's ideas. And that all encompasses our philosophy of education in both first and second stages.
Our school's policy will be as follows. As far as admissions are concerned, we will admit any child between the ages of 4 and 17 without any discrimination based on gender, religious belief, sexual orientation, race, or any type of condition. The staff will be different for each of the stages. In the first stage, there will be guides, but not teachers who seek to impose themselves on the students. In the second stage, there will be specialized educational leaders in each of the areas of study that students will be able to choose from. In terms of financing, the first stage will be covered by the government, and the second one will be financed partially by the government and partially with tuition fees. In the decision-making, it will be democratically elected board members. Now, in terms of participation, students are responsible for their own progress. Finally, it is important to note that parents should provide unlimited support to their children and actively participate in their learning process.
Now we are going to proceed to talk about the structure and processes of our school. Now we will talk about the architecture and design of learning spaces. As we mentioned before, our schooling method is divided into different stages. Therefore, there will be different learning spaces depending on the stage we are focused on. So in the first stage, the classrooms would be designed as in the Montessori method. That means that they will be filled with different didactic materials designed to stimulate kids' senses and that encourages them to pursue new experiences. On both stages, they will be in contact with nature throughout green spaces around the school and in their classrooms. And when it comes to the second stage, they will be provided with different learning spaces depending on the subjects they specialize on. This means they will also have access to all the books and technology necessary to help them develop more knowledge about their specific area. When it comes to materials and curriculum, we also divided it depending on the stage. So on the first stage, they will have a diverse set of objects so children can experience different types of activities and perform the ones they like the most. These materials would include materials to perform physical activities, artistic materials to develop artistic skills, materials to learn chores of everyday life, didactic materials to develop science and math thinking, materials to perform group works and social relationships, and materials to develop reading, oral, and writing skills. Having in mind this curriculum, we want to give the students the opportunity to perform different activities so that later on, based on the knowledge they are able to acquire, they can independently choose what they prefer the most. This curriculum gives them the opportunity to do diverse activities like sports, arts, science, math, literature, and languages. When it comes to the second stage, the materials will be different depending on the specialization that each student chooses. So in this stage, we will have less didactic materials, but these would be replaced with more specialized materials and technology focused on the area of knowledge they want to learn on. So when it comes to the curriculum, they will also have different curriculums depending on the specialized subject that they choose.
In regards to the learning and teaching process of the school, the teacher's role is essential. In the first stage, the learning process will not be based on instead, in the practical work students can develop with the given materials. As independence is valued, activities will not be imposed upon students. They will choose their own path. In the second stage, as this period is focused in a specialization, students will learn based on the curriculum of the area they want to approach to. Teachers would have a more active role in the learning process of each specific area, as they possess meticulous knowledge of a subject that they are trying to share with the students that choose the area of knowledge. Thank you for your attention. We are able to recognize that it is difficult to develop a new educational system, but we believe that if children are given certain independence and if they are given free will to choose their own path, they will be more motivated and their learning process will improve, as children will want to acquire the knowledge of their area of interest. To conclude, the evaluation and assessments will be different in each stage. On the first stage, there will be no exams. Instead, children would learn at their own rhythm without the pressure of graded assignments. To approve each class, students will have to achieve certain objectives that would take into account the whole learning process, not just the results. On the other hand, on the second stage, it's necessary to grade certain activities, since evaluation is trying to measure that a specific knowledge is being processed and learned. But it is important that these graded activities are diverse. Knowledge needs to be approached in a theoretical and practical way. Thank you for your attention. We are able to recognize that it is difficult to develop a new educational system, but we believe that if children are given certain independence and if they are given free will to choose their own path, they will be more motivated and their learning process will improve, as children will want to acquire the knowledge of their area of interest.